This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem. How's everybody doing? We're continuing in Mishna Berura Hashavua. By the way, to keep pace, that we're gonna learn tomorrow. If you're available, tomorrow, regular time, 9 a.m. Because next Thursday I'm not here. I'm not sure about Wednesday, but next Thursday I'm not here. So we're going to learn tomorrow 9 a.m. regular time. Okay, we are up to Siman Yud Gimel, and we are up to Seif Beis. We're talking about wearing a talis on Shabbos. So the Mechaber said, if the talis was strung properly, it is permitted to go out into the Shus HaRabim, whether it's a talis katan or a talis gadol, even nowadays that we don't have tchelas. Says the Rama, rak shelo yehi munach lo al kseifav, as long as it's not on your shoulders. As long as it's not just placed on your shoulder, you know. In other words, if you're going to carry a talis, like you carry a towel to the mikvah, you just sling it over one shoulder, you're not really wearing it. That you cannot do on Shabbos. Says Rama, even though one is required to check their talis before you make a bracha or before you make the mitzvah of tzitzis, but to wear it outside, it does not require bedika. Says the Mishna Berura Sivkatan Vav Al Kesefa. Because then it's not an ornament, but rather a burden. This is not the way it's worn during the week. If somehow it's covering the majority of your body, that's good enough. Look what we write later on regarding this. In the Dirshu, he brings that in Siman Shenalev Sivkatan Kof Yud Beis, Mishna Berura says that if the talis is strung down in its width below your shoulder, you could go out on Shabbos, even if it's not covering Roiv Gufay, but some are machmer. Okay. Koidem Sheyetzebay. The Rama says you do not have to check your talis before you go out in it. Why? Kivan Shabadakai Baboiker Be'ez Shahayim Mavarich Alavisha V'nimsu Shleimim. Why? You know why you don't have to check before you go outside? Because you already checked in the morning when you made a bracha on it, and they were shalem. So su'ein ragil pasek b'zman mu'ah kazeh afilu asir bein time. It's not likely that anything would happen to it in the interim. So it's not that you don't need to check it; it's that you did check it already, and since you checked it already, we're not choishish in that small interval that something happened to it. Umuchach mizeh de b'Shabbos gam kein tzarich levdei tzitzis. From here we see that on Shabbos one is required to wear tzitzis. Now, that means on Shabbos you have to check your tzitzis as well. Which would mean that if you don't plan on making a bracha until you get to shul, let's say you wake up in the morning and you want to just throw your talis on, but you're not making a bracha until you get to shul, you would have to check it before you go outside. You hear this? If you want to put on a talis and wear it in the Rishus HaRabim, you are required to check it. The only reason why the Rama says you don't have to check it is because he's assuming you checked it already in the morning before you made the bracha. But on Shabbos you have to check tzitzis. V'chein kasav, Rav Moshe asks, the Dirshu quotes, that the only reason you check a talis is for the bracha because of the chumrah bracha levat ta'ala. So why do you have to check for So I would say, well, carrying is also pretty chamor. But Moshe says there are achronim that say we're not soimich on chazaka b'makam sheyachal avar. V'chein kasav abach b'perish v'simin ches v'oilam ein nezharim b'zeh v'ayim b'bir halacha. The Bir Halacha says like this. The Bir Halacha says, Koidem sheyetze boy, I Mishna Berura mashakasavnu le'inyan bedika b'Shabbos. Look in the Mishna Berura what we wrote regarding checking on Shabbos. V'ulai tam ha'minhagu. Maybe the reason for the minhag. What minhag is he referring to? I guess that the olam is not zahir to check their tzitzis on Shabbos. Mishum delama yoel habedika. How will the bedika help? Because even if they're not kosher, you're still allowed to wear it, like the Ramah will say upcoming. Says the Bir Halacha, this would only help, according to the opinion of the Magen Avraham, that the reason why one should check their tzitzis is because you don't want to be wearing a garment without tzitzis. But aval if you mashukasvat taz. But according to the Taz, that the reason to check tzitzis is not because you don't want to wear a four-cornered garment without tzitzis, but the reason to check tzitzis is because of the chumrah, of the choimer, of loisisa, the lav that you incur bevrachel v'atalim ken yivdoik. Then of course you have to check tzitzis on Shabbos. If they come out to Pasul, you'll put them on without a bracha. Even the Magen Avraham, the whole reason of the Magen Avraham is we allow the guy not to be embarrassed and put on Pasul tzitzis on Shabbos. But at home, let's say you don't have an erev, and there's people want to wear the talis at home. There, you for sure need to check. Number one, there you're going to be wearing a garment without tzitzis. You're going to want to go into a karmelis rabim, and therefore this is not really a great custom not to check your tzitzis on Shabbos. You know what the right thing is? Shabbos, on Friday. The best thing is check your talis on Friday before you put it back in the bag. Then you won't have to check it on Shabbos. Because I already checked it when I put it in the bag, nothing's going to happen to it in the bag. So that's what I mean, but I have a separate Shabbos talis. So if you have a separate Shabbos talis, like the Mishna Berura says you should, in Siman Reish Samach Beis Katan Hey the Dirshu quotes, Leleket HaKemach HaChadash brings, so check your talis Matzah Shabbos when you fold it up, so this way, when Shabbos comes, you don't have to check it. So again, really you should check your talis on Shabbos. Of course you should check your talis on Shabbos. That's the best thing to do. There is a custom not to. The reason is, because what are you going to do if they're not good? You're allowed to wear the garment anyway. But the Bir Halacha says, very nice, you're allowed to wear the garment, but number one, what about the chumrah of bracha levatala? And number two, what if you end up wearing your tzitzis in a place where you're not in shul and there's no eruv? So therefore, the best thing to do is, if you don't want to check your talis on Shabbos, especially when you check them, you knot it tighter and you separate the strings. So do it Matzah Shabbos. When you put away, so this Matzah Shabbos, when you put away your talis, you'll be Mekayim this Bir Halacha, you check your tzitzis, then you'll be good to go the following Shabbos. Okay. Sif Gimel. Im noidaloi b'Shabbos kishehu b'karmelis sha'atar shala Pasul lo yisirenu me'alav ad sheyagia lebeisoi degado kavod habriyos. If you find out on Shabbos, when you're in a rabbinic domain, that the talis you're wearing is Pasul, so you say, well, I'm carrying midrabanan. So you don't have to take it off because of kavod habriyos. So I would have said, what do you mean you're carrying midrabanan? You're doing worse than that. You're wearing a four-cornered garment without tzitzis. Isn't that a problem? So we have to see about this. Says the Mishna Berura, Sivkata Neches, B'Shabbos, V'yim Yada Me'esmal. If you knew yesterday, if you knew Friday, V'shachach lahata b'tzitzis, you forgot to put on tzitzis, nira gam ken lo kansina, we don't knas you, we don't say take it off. V'rayim el kaman b'siman shin and hesav gimel b'hagah hechad shachav v'lay ervay ayin sham. Rabbi Kiva says, when somebody forgot to make an eruv, we don't knas them on Shabbos either. Okay, Sivkat and Tes will be the last Mishna Berura we do today. Keshuba Karmelis. Humakam shesham ein iser tilta rak midrabanan. A karmelis is a place that it's only usher to carry midrabanan. Ulakach ein sarach lahaser, and therefore you don't have to remove it. The kavod habriyos doicha iser drabanan, because kavod habriyos is doicha a rabbinic iser. The question we asked, v'afagav the tzitzis mitzvah saseh dairaisa, ulu dairaisa loy daichinim and make haris. Tzitzis is a iser dairaisa. To wear four-cornered garments without tzitzis is a dairaisa, and we're not madche a dairaisa for somebody's honor. Now you might ask, what's the kavod habriyos over here? So, l'char, we're talking about either a situation where everyone wore a talis in the street, or the talis was needed to cover parts of his body. But the Mishna Berura brings the idea, you're being mavato dairaisa, mikamakam shari, it's permitted. Why? The Torah never said, don't you dare wear a four-cornered garment without tzitzis. Rak mitzvah saseh by tzitzis. There's just a positive command to wear tzitzis. But I can't put on the tzitzis now. Since I'm not able to put on tzitzis on Shabbos, ein over mitzvah saseh, I'm not violating an aseh. This is the Magen Avram that the Mishna Berura that we referred to yesterday, is what Rabbi Yeager mentioned yesterday, that putting on tzitzis is a command, but only if you're able to do it. If you're not able to do it, because it's Shabbos, it's the isser. In other words, the isser of wearing a four-cornered garment is, it's a mitzvah to put on the tzitzis. If I can't do it, I'm not over any aseh. I have an isser d'Rabbanan. So I would say, what's the isser d'Rabbanan? Why is isser d'Rabbanan? I can't put on the tzitzis. Why is there even an isser d'Rabbanan? But in any event, therefore it's pushed away because of kavod habriyos. You don't have to take off the talis. But in a public domain where carrying is the daraisa, you got to take it off. But the guy doesn't have any clothing underneath. Even if the guy will remain bare without wearing the talis, a kavod habriyos is not push off such an issa daraisa b'chol gavne, under all circumstances. What does it mean, kazeh? Kazeh means you're doing a proactive da'iraisa because of carrying a tzitzis. If you would only be violating a da'iraisa b'shev al taseh, that might be different. Now, somebody pointed out to me when I once spoke out this halacha that it's not clear that this would apply b'zman hazeh. I mean, if a guy was walking on the street and he was only wearing a talis, first of all, it would probably be quite a big chil Hashem if he then was completely arum walking in the street. And the other thing is he would be arrested for doing that. So whether this applies l'maisa, maybe in Eastern Europe when you live in a Jewish ghetto, but I don't know that, in other words, this is not just l'chayra, there would be an issue of chil Hashem l'maisa if somebody did this. It's hard to say they should do this l'maisa. Anyway, there's a machlokes whether there's even a rishus haram b'zman hazeh. V'nira de'im hagadil hu shalem v'hapsul hu rak be'anaf. What if the snap is not in the tassel part, but in the anaf? And we learned that the kidei aniva, Rashi says, is from the anaf, and the Ri says the kidei aniva is in the gedil. So according to the Ri, you have another kula. According to the Ri, it's good anyway. So says the Mishna Berura, if the gedil is shalom and the pasul is in the anaf, so then this is only pasul according to Rashi, but the Ri would say it's good. So you could join up the shita of the Ri, who says as long as you have the gedil intact, it's okay. You don't have to take it off right away. So you just hurry to go home. Okay, Rabbi Isai, thanks everybody. So tomorrow, with your reshus, we're going to continue. We'll have one day tomorrow, and hopefully that will keep us on tap. Okay, everyone? Thank you very much. Bracha v'atzlacha. Kol tov.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.